ever live stream, I think, on YouTube. Bear with us because obviously I'm not the best with this kind of thing. Um, I'm joined with my great co-host of my podcast, Gus. We've obviously both just watched that 2-0 loss. Let me hide that for a second. Um, yeah, I think we're gonna kind of explore the sort of structural changes that Frank has made in the last two games and kind of how the game unfolded. Henry, if you can just change that um, the picture so we're the same size, because I think Gus is way bigger than me right now. Um, yeah, so obviously the start was, let's just show the lineup. Um, so we sort of lined up in this 3-2 shape again. Obviously, we had Porro in that sort of reserved right back role, Palhinha Danso, Palhinha at centre back, which I quite enjoyed. We'll get into that. Bentancur and Sarr in the pivot, Spence kind of holding the width, this kind of left flank, supposedly much higher than Porro, with Bergvall sort of out of possession was more of a left midfielder, but obviously in possession tucked in, really nice and narrow, close to Simmons, who was the 10, and then we had Johnson holding the width on this side with Richarlison up front. So yeah, I think if I can, how do I stop sharing the screen now? Am I still sharing it?
I don't think you were ever sharing it to begin with,
Oh,
but
never sharing it. Okay,
yeah.
forget that. Sorry, guys. Just getting used to this. Yeah. So, Gus, what were your thoughts just overall of the game? Um, and yeah, then we'll get into kind of the more tactical side of it.
Yeah. Hey guys in chat. It's nice to be live. Um, a little frustrated, but also kind of expected. I go into these games at St. James's Park just not trying to get embarrassed, right? We have a lot of trauma there, and so going into this game with the amount of injuries we had, midweek fixture in front of a really important game versus Chelsea. I was looking for kind of just a steady performance, and I thought that there was moments where we looked likely to score. We put some nice moves together, but I just think the technical floor got the best of us. We just didn't have enough technical players in the final third. In our front three, I thought Richarlison and Johnson were pretty abysmal for most of the game. Yeah, going into this game, I really just wanted us to kind of put in a solid performance and show a lot of effort. Attack duels strongly because we know that they can be feisty at St. James's Park. So I thought that there was moments where we looked all right. Tactically, I thought that Frank has kind of figured something out with this 3-2 build-up where we saw it in preseason, we saw it last week versus Everton. It definitely opens some space for us. It definitely gives us more options in build-up. Um, and I thought that for the players we had on the pitch for a while, we held our own. I think that the two goals we did concede were weak. I didn't think we really gave up that many chances. Obviously, we kind of let them play around us, toy with us a couple times where, would have been nice to have Paulina kind of in the middle of the pitch to break up play. Um, but I think that, like you said, I think Paulina, center back was really strong. Was kind of a fun watch there. He had a couple good kind of roulettes where he was turning around players. Yeah, I'm not as frustrated as I thought I would be, now that the dust has settled, but definitely some really frustrating moments that we'll get into for sure.
Yeah. So,
With
if
yeah,
yeah, I'll pick up the tactics board. Can you see that now?
yes sir.
Yes, perfect. So this is sort of the way we set up, and in preseason we did see a lot of this, and it was kind of Porro playing as this sort of third-ish centre back in build-up. Obviously, when we don't have the ball, it goes back to a sort of traditional 4-4-2 shape with Simmons kind of stepping up to press like that. But then when we have the ball, it's something more like that. Spence keeping the width on the left, and Porro kind of playing in this role. And the reason that this helps us in build up is for a few reasons. I think the first reason is that Porro playing deeper drags. Let's just picture. Obviously, this is the opposition. Drags Barnes with him, towards him, sorry, and that opens up this little gap here. Obviously, if Ramsey steps, then there's gaps here, and we saw Porro try to kind of do this pass at times to Johnson. It's not going to work in the same way unless you've got Kudus there, who can obviously bring those kind of passes down. But that's one reason, so it drags the player towards you. But I think the other reason is just the angle of the pass. So if you have Porro playing in this sort of more deep role, that kind of diagonal pass, you can see that Bentancur can open up his body. Whereas if Porro is playing something more like this next to him, that's a square pass, and Bentancur isn't at the angle to turn. If he turns, he's going to turn into Ramsey. It's just a straight pass. So this is what we've been seeing a lot when we've played more like this, where Porro's played into Bentancur and he's just had to bounce it back, and we've seen a lot of that kind of football. Whereas if you have Porro a bit deeper, the angles are more favourable. It's a diagonal pass. While Ramsey's still on his back, Bentancur, obviously if Ramsey nips in there, Bentancur can kind of turn out into this space. Obviously, if Ramsey stays on that side, then Bentancur can kind of open up without properly having to turn and then driving into that space and progressing the ball like that. So that's the kind of reason that I think the 3-2 shape works really well. I think there was obviously a few issues with it, which we'll get into. I think obviously Spence is not a natural width holder on this side, and I think this works when you have the other fullback being really aggressive and holding the width on that side. That didn't happen because Spence is a right-footed defensive fullback, I'd say. What did you make of Spence's game in general, Gus?
I actually really liked Spence today. I think that he drove with the ball brilliantly. There was a few moments in that second half where he used the space that Newcastle gave him down that left and cut inside, which I think that a lot of teams are trying to prevent him from doing, but he was able to get to that spot and drive forward. And I think that for the task we had him kind of performing for a right-footed left back, I think holding width in those positions, especially in that first half, I think that he was isolated extremely, and the only really option he had was that underlap to Bergvall. And I thought that he did as well as he could. I'm obviously in the same boat as a lot of us, especially in chat. I've seen it with right footers on the left side. It limits us. It allows teams to press us just to our right foot on that side, and it limits our passing infield centrally, and also makes us just super predictable, right? We're always going down that left side, down the touchline, down the byline, so that we don't have any options to kind of link up play with basically anyone on the left side. And you can kind of see it with how spaced out our players are over there compared to our right side. Obviously, that's the shape, but it's giving Spence an opportunity to drive forward, which is his strong suit. I thought that he defended Alenga well, who is kind of shit at this point. I think we've all realized that he's kind of a one-trick pony. And I thought Spence had a couple of funny aura farming moments where he just like let him come onto him and was like, come at me, which I do love from him. I think that for a player that we asked a lot of today, I mean, he was bombing up and down. I think there was a moment where he ran all the way back to recover on Alenga, and Kinski wasted no time throwing it in front of him to then bomb forward, and that was a little frustrating for me. But we just asked a lot of him today, and I thought that he did as well as he could for how much effort we kind of asked of him, and and we can get into Kinski and kind of the situations he put us in.
Yeah, I think with Spence, I think the second half I liked a lot more. I think obviously with what you get with Spence is that aggression I think there was a few times in the second half where he stepped in really well, really aggressively, and then you get, which I don't think we've seen enough of. And to be honest, he hasn't been playing in this same kind of wide left role where the space does open up for him to drive into the whole season. But I want to see more of that ball carrying ability that we saw in the second half. And I think like his ball carrying was really good, and then some of his decision making in the final third was a bit rusty. But I do think he hasn't really even had the chance to be in the final third that much this season. And there was a couple where there was one where he tried to switch it to Johnson, And I thought, yeah, decent idea, but like we had men over, and if you just played one simple pass to Simmons, he could have done that exact same pass while probably committing a player towards him.
Exactly.
But I think, to be honest, overall, second half I liked him. First half, yeah, there's an obvious downgrade there because of his right-footedness, but also I just think Udogie is probably a better final third player.
Yeah.
But I agree. I don't think he was awful. He definitely grew into it. I think, to be honest, if we lost the game, and I think there were kind of three, and I don't like picking players out, but I think there was three players who are nowhere near the level we need to be at, and in games against top opposition, you can't afford to carry players, and
Multiple players too.
especially especially players in the same section of the pitch. So I think if I just highlight, I think these three really, really let us down today. Yeah, I'll touch on Johnson, and then I'll leave Kinski and Richarlison to you. So obviously with Porro playing, this sort of reserved fullback role, there is actually quite a lot of demands on Johnson because he's got this whole area which he kind of has to marshal. And this is a big ask, but to be honest, it's quite a simplified role. It's a big physical role, and obviously there's certain players that you'd want to kind of bring more. But to be honest, you keep the width. If you can just run up and down, keep the width because you're the width holder. You've got Simmons in the pocket here, because as Bergval drifts in field over here, you get Simmons able to drift over here. So you've got that support, and Simmons was also pulling into positions like this a lot to kind of help that progression, because obviously this pass works with Kudus, doesn't work as well as Johnson. So we saw Simmons, especially in the first half, drop into this pocket to help kind of get it on to Johnson, while then he went and got back into the final third. But the technical level and the confidence, the kind of intent even isn't there. I think that the other thing I want to kind of talk about with him is, like, I don't know if this is just the way I see football, but there's certain players I'll accept minimal work ethic from, and they're the players that can win you games in the final third and can make a difference. If you're a player that knows your technical level isn't great, you're a bit of a passenger in possession, you at least have to put the work in out of possession, because you can't be a passenger in both in possession and out of possession, because then what are you really offering? And over the years, if you look at any team, the players that aren't of the technical level, they get into the team off their hard work. I don't know, even in the great teams like I don't know, Park Ji-sung, for example, decent technical player, nothing special. Darren Fletcher, nothing special. These players, they got into the team for their work, because everyone knew they weren't of the technical level of your Scholeses, your Ronaldos, whatever. But they put in a shift and they were disciplined. And if you're not going to be of the level technically, then you have to at least put the work in. And I don't think he puts anywhere near enough work in. There was times where Porro played him maybe a little bit of a short ball, and he's waiting for it instead of going and meeting it. Obviously, the technical stuff, he can't control the fact that he's not technically good enough. But there was times where Porro would play him a long ball, and many players of Premier League level would bring that down. He struggles to bring it down. I just don't see, especially in this role, because you're asking him to keep the width so much, what he's offering there. At least if he's on this side, and obviously he's not going to play as a 10, but if Spence is keeping the width here, then at least he can make these sorts of runs and try and get in behind and affect the game in the box, which is obviously his bread and butter. But here, I know our squad's really depleted, so it's a difficult one.
I want to touch on that that comment we just highlighted. I think that under Ange, and still now, he presses decently, but his tracking back is what I'm most concerned about with him. I think that his work rate is not just his pressing; it's his tracking back and helping Porro. He leaves Porro on an island way too much, and you can kind of see the frustration Porro accumulates over a game when he's playing on that side with Brennan. He becomes so frustrated that he almost expects to be isolated when he should have help inside, and I think that he work rate when he's pressing the ball in the final third is all right. It's good. His pressing numbers are good, but it's everything else, like you said, not coming back to the ball fast enough, not putting that effort in, knowing that Poro's going to come short to him. And they played together enough to know when they're going long over the top and when he needs to come short. And I think that the inconsistency in his mentality, it just kind of rubs me the wrong way. Sometimes he'll get that wrong. He'll come short when Poros is going long, and it looks like Brennan is mad at Poro when Poro is the one who has all the responsibility to make the right pass. And I think that it's just not the mentality isn't lining up with what we need out of him when, like you said, when we need him to work hard, and that's all we really need him to do.
The thing is as well is like with his pressing, and I know this because I do this sometimes because I'm quite a lazy player off the ball. But what he does is he goes in fast, and he tries to commit, and it looks like he's made the effort because maybe he sticks his leg out as if to block it, but that's half the job. Like you see the best defenders, first of all, they don't commit, so they're willing to stick at it. So they'll hold, which is patience. But he doesn't like defending. Obviously, he's an attacking player. Most attacking players don't like defending. But so what he'll do is he'll go in and try to like slide or put a foot in, which is easy to just sell and go past him, and then that's his defensive job done. So he's looked like he's pressed.
Hands up.
Yeah, he's looked like he's pressed. He's committed. But he hasn't really because he's done half the job because he has to recover back in, and then he jogs back, and that is something I recognize because I do that, and it's like it's that's not how you defend, and that's laziness, and there's no two ways about that, and the stats back this up. I saw a graph go around. I can't remember who tweeted it, but he was on the lower, and like I said, you can't afford to carry players in and out of possession. Like pick your struggle.
Pick your poison, man.
Yeah. Cool. That's Johnson done. I mean, he's everyone knows where we're at with him. I think our squad is very depleted right now, and if Kudus is injured, and Odebear's got a bruised rib.
Something. It looks like, yeah, people were saying that he was on the bench for Everton, so it must have happened in training. I think that he was just on the bench for Everton because we didn't have the numbers. I don't know. Right. It looked like he got clattered into at the top of the box versus Monaco, went down, got taken off like 2 minutes later. And he was holding his ribs, so I'm not sure. But I would assume that it's something to do with that.
We'll touch on Chelsea in a bit, but
yeah, for sure.
Let's go on to Richarlison. Yeah.
Cool. First and foremost, we got to talk about his inability to stay on his feet. Like, this is something I noticed last season, and since we signed him, it's not something I noticed to Everton. It may be due to injuries. It may be due to just kind of a timidness around putting in max effort all the time because of the injuries that he's dealt with. But man, a ball's in the box and he's on his ass. Like, I don't understand it. He when he's holding up play, he slips down, right? When he's trying to make a turn, he'll slip down while the ball's at his feet. The first 20 minutes, I wanted Frank to yank him. Like, I genuinely, he was moping around. He was yelling at the ref from halfway across the pitch. Even the commentators were commenting just on his mentality and his body language throughout that first 20 to 30 minutes. I thought that, the two chances that he couldn't get on the end of in the first half, the second one was a little harder than the first, but that first one, after a beautiful move, probably our best one all season. I think everyone touched the ball. There's a nice little flick on from Bergvall at the top of the box with his head. It was a gorgeous move, and Richarlison overcommits on his run. Didn't time it right. Is just completely out of position. The ball's behind him. I think that with him, his hold-up play, the first 5-10 minutes was all right because they weren't man-marking him really tight. I think they were kind of just letting him gather the ball, and then they realized that, why aren't we doing that? Let's get tight to him, and he couldn't hold the ball up. And then, you hold-up play is one thing. We've seen him be kind of inconsistent in those areas, but recently kind of just been poor. And we've always said, his instincts in the box, he's a poacher. He's going to pop up with a goal when you least expect it. And I think that's just kind of vanished. I don't know if that was always kind of something that we imagined. I know that he has those instincts, and I've seen them for a few goals. But I just don't think he's that good of a poacher in the box like we kind of make him out to be. I think that
I think
his trigger has gotten slower. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's happening there. Um, and just the mentality of things. I think that he kind of just brought the attitude and the mentality down of the team just in general. He's one of the more senior players that we have. He's been here 4 seasons now. He's got to he's got to shape up. I'm not sure. I'm not sure really what to say about him. He just frustrates me every time he touches the ball.
the thing is with what you say about his kind of poaching instincts there. Um, I think the only time that Richarlison really has a value in the team is in situations like this, where we're sustaining attacks, and that the thing is under Frank we haven't sustained attacks all season, and so I think when there's a moment where we're chasing a goal and we're parked in the opposition half, and then there's like a packed box, he's good at fighting for moments like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very specific skill set. Um, Ben Bowman says thought his link play was better than it has been this season. It was his stuff in the box that was just dreadful. Timing of everything in the box was way off. Yeah, I mean, the thing is with his link play, I think when it comes off, for me, it looks fortunate. It's like you haven't brought that down.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. He got some passes off, but it didn't look clean. It's never clean with him,
Yeah.
and that's my issue. And I think if you look at every other top 8 striker, they're able to bring the ball down clean and get it off. And if you look at Walter Marder on the other team, sorry, like the amount of times he got the ball into feet, killed it, moved it on so quickly. That's the levels we should be at, and that's a team that we should be better than. And their striker is very clear of us. And I know Solanke's injured, and to be honest, I think Kolo Muani has looked pretty good in the small amount of time that he's played. Let me just reset the board.
No, yeah, I think AB in chat makes a good point. Cole Muani comes in, even Richarlison's still on the pitch. Cole Muani's popping up in deep areas, linking play. He made some really great runs. The one that went off Kavanagh's foot.
Yeah,
He's able to cause problems. Quite instantly off the bench. And I don't know. This is 3 games now where he's kind of just shown flashes of what our strikers that we currently have with Solanke out can't do. And we just have we don't really have the ability to start Richarlison and Johnson in the same 11, especially if we're setting up like this. I mean, the Poro had a couple deep cross opportunities that I think there was one just exactly what you're talking about where Richarlison put his forearm on the back of Dan Burn and got a header off, right? And I think Ramsdale saved it or it was off target, but if he gets 1 or 2 of those a game, that's great. He might put one in the corner, but we're not producing and sustaining that amount of pressure to really make it worth it.
we're not at the level where we can carry players like Johnson or Richarlison, and
No.
they have their pluses, but you have to be at a top level all over the rest of the pitch for them to be a net positive. And so, for example, if you have very technical players like all over the pitch, barring Johnson, then they can pop the ball around constantly. They can keep the ball in difficult situations, and Johnson can stay out the way and then poach at the back post. But we don't have that. We're not at the level yet where you can carry a player like that. Same goes for Richarlison. If we were constantly camped in the opposition half and he just wanted to stand in the box, fight for second balls, fight for aerial duels, and get on the end of stuff. Again, you can probably afford to carry him, but again, we're not at that level. I mean, Kinski will go into, but I want to just talk about a couple of the other kind of pluses, I think, today.
Yeah, for sure.
In the last 2 games, I really think Bentancur has really benefited from this change in build-up shape. I think he's looked so much better. Not that I don't think he was outstanding tonight, but I thought he was again against Everton he was great. It's mainly out of possession, but I think tonight he looked so much cleaner. And in a game where I saw the ball bounce off Johnson and Richarlison so many times, Bentancur was very secure on it and not as negative as he's been. And I think that clearly shows that this shape is really benefiting us, and this is something we have to stick to now. I really hope he doesn't revert against Chelsea. But I thought he was solid again. And then, I mean,
I
Yeah,
just
go on.
want
You
to say
can
with Bentancur, the last 2 games, maybe eat my words. I've been pretty adamant that Bentancur's really frustrated me, just with how conservative he plays. Some of his progression numbers have been, have tanked. Obviously, we're playing a much different system. It's an antithesis of Ange, but when you have a midfield that it kind of plays like they have ADHD, it's nice to have someone who can put their foot on the ball and kind of control the tempo as infrequently as he had those opportunities to kind of control the tempo. I think there was some moments where he's surrounded by multiple players, was able to play it back, slow it down. In that pocket with Porro, I think when we have Kudus, he's able to, if it's to his right side, he's able to bounce past it pretty well. And able to, kind of work off that bounce pass to the outside and drive it through the middle, let it run, let it drive it through the middle, and find someone, to the left, Sar, Spence, Bergvall. So, I'm pretty happy with kind of how he's grown into the season. I think that at first he was figuring things out. His partner wasn't as progressive as, we would have hoped. So he was also playing quite conservative. He wasn't sure exactly what to do in those moments in the double pivot, just with Paulinho kind of as his only partner to link with. So yeah, no, I think this setup helps him well. Simmons dropping into that area also helps him. And yeah, no, I'm happy that he's able to regain a little bit of confidence. I could tell that some of the issues with his progression, some of the issues with his conservativeness is obviously confidence issues. But I think his Everton performance really kind of set him on the right track. So, I can eat my words. I can say that he improved, and he's kind of showing me what I saw for the tail end of Ange, where he was able to put his studs on the ball, fend off pressure from multiple defenders, and kind of be that pressure relief valve that we need at certain moments. Obviously not
Yeah,
perfect.
and I think with Paulinho as well. There was one thing I kept noticing, which I don't know if this was by design or who was pressing up? It was Willock pressing up me too. I don't know if this was by design or it was just because Paulinho's a midfielder. But there was times where Paulinho would obviously the build up would start. Let's say goes to Paulinho, goes to Porro, goes into Bentancur, and Bentancur maybe receives it over here or something. And Waltemada's kind of blocking this pass, and then Paulinho would kind of step in ahead of him. Um, and Waltemada maybe wouldn't track him, or if Waltemada did, then Bentancur could easily bounce it back to Porro because there would be so much space there. And Paulinho kept making that sort of little drift into midfield, which I really liked. And then it allowed also Kinski to kind of step up a bit. And so if that was marked, then you had Kinski. Obviously, his goalkeeping was absolutely abysmal. But he was able to at times when we did get a little bit of settled play, do this, and Paulinho would step out, and we've seen Amorim do this with his centre backs in a 3, which is slightly different. Obviously, we've got Porro playing there, but Waltemada would kind of follow, and then you make this 3 with Kinski there, and you've then got a overload in midfield. So I hope that was by design, or if Paulinho just went on walkabouts, that also might be possible. But yeah, that was a nice little detail, I thought. Again, these are sparing moments. I think the individual quality really kind of limited how much we could see that throughout the game. But there were some good signs. Let me just see if we've got any good chats on here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let's. A lot of people talk about Simmons. I want to touch on that. I thought he was very good today. Very good might be a stretch. I thought he was good today. Let me just talk about
double tens.
Yes. So Bergvall was obviously on paper starting over here, but he. Gus, I think there's a noise in your. Can you mute your mic quickly? It sounds like wind or a fan. Or maybe it's just. Have you muted? Yeah. Then something. Oh, what's going on? Okay, forget it. Anyway, Bergvall was drifting into this sort of 10 position, and him and Simmons were linking up very, very well. And I think this is the thing I've been trying to make a point of, is that good players like this, if you can get good players close together, they're going to work things out. And the rotations between them, there was times where Bergvall was coming this side, Simmons was going over here. I think this is the kind of play that Simmons really thrives off, and bringing this left winger closer to Simmons is something that he's going to work really well at, because he's not a Kudus, right? He's not going to get the ball over here, carry it 40 yards, beat about 4 players. That's not the kind of player he is. You want him in the pockets, in tight areas with players around him, where he can combine really well, because he's a great footballer. He's very intelligent, and so he's able to make things happen in those situations. I think people are kind of expecting a player that he isn't. He's not a player that's going to kind of, get the ball here and beat about 5 players and then slide a through ball in. He needs players around him that he's going to work with. He's a player who combines so well, and when you have these two ahead of him, it's a struggle. But I think him and Bergvall, they showed good levels today. Again, there's much more to come from Simmons. I think it's the final details in the final third that are lacking, but his ability to come and link play really well in these deeper areas, and then kind of move it on to the left back or to Bergvall in that 10, I think has been really good. There's a sound issue we're having. Hold on, guys.
I was muted that whole time. Could you still hear the white noise?
Yeah, let me try mute. Wait, it's gone now. It's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
I have no idea what happened. Did it pop up randomly?
I
Sorry
think
about
you
that,
switched
folks.
the computer mic, apparently. That's what someone said. Webcam mic. Sorry, guys. Give us a second. This is our first ever live.
I didn't switch. Can you still hear it?
It's very faint now, but I think it's fine.
That's so
Anyway,
strange.
what did you think about Simmons?
I think adjectives can get people in trouble when describing performances. I've been called out a couple times using an adjective that I believe describes a performance perfectly and doesn't quite. I think that there was a couple moments in the first half that were pretty shaky from Xavi. That switch of play early on, there was a couple kind of loose touches that made me scared that it was gonna kind of snowball into a bad performance. But he's had these moments since we signed him where he doesn't look super confident on the ball. He doesn't look like he really knows where his teammates are going to be. Doesn't quite know where to end the move. And I think that he grows into these games, and I'm almost glad, and we talked about this before we went live, that he played 90, because there's been a couple moments, I know you've talked about it, where he has played himself into the game, and then we've yanked him, or we've hooked him. And, and sometimes I feel like with him, it's just about repetition and getting familiar with his teammates.
100%.
And so I think at the beginning of this game, I was really worried, like, ooh, this could be a stinker and hooked moment. And I didn't really want to kind of comment on it in the live, because I really think that he's struggling with just the new environment, the system, just kind of where he can pop up in the best moments for himself and for the team. And I think that today he played himself into somewhat of a good form where, like, obviously there were some moments just like that Leeds performance where he was amazing, but then had the Rabona that he couldn't get off. I think that he is having these inconsistent moments where I'm like, oh, Xavi, bro, what are you doing? And then he puts together a move kind of single-handedly where he drops deep and links and drags us up the pitch or finds a pocket. I think that he found a lot of really nice pockets today. And we were getting him the ball, which obviously we've complained about for a few games now, where he's popping up in good positions and he's not getting the ball on the right side of his body or getting the ball at all.
Because that question's a good one on your point. Like, what's your thoughts on him? Where does it go? What's your thoughts on him consistently overhitting relatively easy through balls in the final third for a player of his caliber? Lack of confidence or concentration? I do think it's for me, I think it's a lack of rhythm. I think you can obviously see the technical level. Anyone who knows football can see how good technically he is. I think there's two things that are potentially affecting him. I think one, which these sound like excuses, and obviously the top players make do with anything, and they'll create stuff. He's not that yet. He's not. He's 22. He's adapting to a new league, so obviously he's not De Bruyne who will make something happen out of any time he gets the ball. But I do think if you get him the ball more often in games, then he finds his rhythm. Players like that need touches constantly. They thrive off little combinations. The more they touch it, they get into the swing of things, and then they start kind of getting into that flow state. And I think players like him, if you limit him to very few touches, he's not a difference maker necessarily on one moment. I think he's a player who needs to be constantly involved to keep his confidence high as well. And yeah, I think someone said Simmons has been struggling with the physicality. That shank pass looked to me like he was anticipating. I think your second part of that is more applicable. I don't think it's the physicality. For me, it's the intensity. I think he's not used to getting this much pressure, and it's physicality as well because it's intense pressure from people like Joe Linton and flipping who else they have Dan Burn on him a couple of times, and but yeah, I think for me the signs are really there, and I do think this shape with another 10 next to him is going to really, really help him because getting players closer to him that he can work with is really useful. And if I just put on this guy who, where is it? Where is he? Colomani. Because I think you can see he is a player. And even in the Everton game, there was one brief moment. Again, Simmons kind of messed this one up, but he dropped into here. Colomani did a nice little flick, and Simmons read it. And top players read other players' flicks and little moments like that really work in their favour. So if you can get the likes of Bergvall, Colomani, definitely not this guy. Kudus, yeah, Kudus. That now is looking really useful for Simmons, and here is where then he needs to step up 100%. If you get good players around him, then he has to raise his level because he's a player then who can be the main orchestrator of a situation like this where he's the centerpiece. You're getting the ball to him, he's slipping through Kudus, he's working with Colomwani, 1-1-2, stuff like that. I think with playing with Johnson and Richarlison is really difficult. And so yeah, I think for me again, a good game under his belt, I think. But he's obviously not there yet. He's definitely not there yet, and I think there's going to be so much more to come. But I think anyone who really has a brain and understands the game can see that he's adapting. But there's a great player in there. Whether that adaptation is quick or slow, we'll see. But it's October, and he's a 22-year-old kid coming from the Bundesliga, which is traditionally a difficult league to adapt from. So yeah, I think I'm really still not worried about him at all. I think it's weird for people to be drawing for him tonight because there were such key players that were so poor, and he really wasn't anywhere near that low level. So yeah, he's not going to be the man of the match every single game yet, but yeah.
Yeah, he's the least of our issues today. I think that he's gonna have he gets on the ball so much. There's not much we can do if he's gonna have some moments where he looks really sloppy or it looks like a pass doesn't come off. I mean, definitely shanked passes are gonna look pretty awful, but you know what I mean. Just getting in the right positions, like when he's not in a flow. With the right players around him, with the quality around him, and I think that he's going to have these moments at the age that he's at, with the league he's coming from and the intensity, the change in intensity, especially where we just played against a team that loves to, we could talk about that dirty challenge, but just loves to kind of clatter into you. I think that he had some moments where he just looked a little bit off balance, and that was partially because of the passes we put into him. I think some of the passes we put into him just got him off balance. And those final actions I think we struggle with just as a team right now. I saw a bunch of people in chat talking about how we put together some nice moves and it just didn't come off in the final third. I think that we had some moments that we probably, I saw plenty of people online saying Richarlison should have had at least one. I think he probably could have scored a hat trick in this game. Just with the amount of kind of capitulation that we had as soon as the ball touched, the 18-yard box, it just blew up in our face every time. And I think that that's kind of been a theme for a lot of our games is, we can't finish anything in the box, and Simmons isn't quite sure who to trust around him. I think that he gets the ball to Kudus almost every time when they're on the pitch together, and that's the only person he can really get the ball through and hope to get it back. Him and Porro, I think those are the only three that are really kind of working as a unit. And I think in general, I think we played as the there were some moments where we had some team moves, but I think that a lot of people played kind of for themselves tonight because we're not quite sure with the amount of rotation and injuries and just figuring each other out. The cohesion isn't quite there. So there's a lot to be kind of frustrated with, angry about. I think with this run of fixtures, we're really learning about how our squad stacks up, which it doesn't stack up with basically anyone in the top six. The technical floor is abysmal. And with the injuries we have, we could talk about that for a whole podcast. What, 15 senior players hurt by October 29th? What are we is it last season again? Is it the season before? It seems like every single year November approaches and we are shit out of luck.
Yeah. So I think there's good questions in here related to Simmons because people are asking if Kulusevski and Madison, Kulusevski or Madison were fit, would it be a different story? And I actually think Frank's original plan was this shape, because if we go back to summer and we were linked with Gibbs White, Madison hadn't been injured at that point. So
good point.
So I think the idea was to get another 10, and he was going to play this dual 10 system with a fullback flying up the flank and having maybe Madison or Gibbs White off the left. So then they went and obviously Madison got injured. They went and got another 10. But I think with Madison or Kulusevski back, it's going to be 2-10 still. And I really do like that. I just think we need a backup left back to Doggy and have Spence back to the right hand side. So I do think that was the original plan with Frank. And so yeah, I think that will make a difference. I think the kind of impatience with Xavi Simmons is childish. People are frustrated with players. Cool, if you want to be frustrated with players that have been here 3-4 years and haven't shown you anything, that's fine. But this is a 22-year-old kid who's just arrived in the country, new league, massive pressure on his shoulders, and hasn't been that bad. He's been probably a little bit underwhelming, but I don't know what you're kind of expecting so far. He's not going to be Madison level yet. There's a lot more to come. It's crazy the kind of impatience of football fans now, because it's barely been 2 months. What do you think of Bergvall playing on the left? I saw against Everton happened today. Yeah, we kind of touched on this. I think it worked really well. I actually think Bergvall was our best player today.
I do too. Him and Spence were 1 and 2.
Talk on Bergvall actually.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was really impressed with Bergvall. I thought that he ironed some of the overrunning, ironed that out in his game today. I think there was a lot of great moments combining up the left. He's one of those players that I just enjoy watching, even if he does have some frantic moments where he maybe doesn't do the right thing, make the right decision. But today I thought that he was a joy to watch and made some good decisions. I think that him and Simmons combining in in transition worked really well. I think that there was some moments where I was like, okay, here's another counter we're gonna waste, and we at least got it to the top of the box. It's not that we did anything with it, but yeah, and I'm really looking forward to seeing kind of Bergvall in this system compared to the 4-3 or 4-2-1-3 or the 4-3-3, where he was the sole 10 and he was basically playing second balls, and he kind of didn't look like he knew where to operate and where to pick up the ball. And I think that this system is much better suited for what we expect him to do. I'm a little bit frustrated with his work rate, defensively. I think that uh, he expects Spence to be so locked down on that right side, and Spence did a wonderful job down the right tonight. But that he doesn't kind of commit fully to some of the tracking back. But again, I think I'm nitpicking there. I think if he's our best player, I think him and Spence were pretty good up that left side. And he combined well with Xavi, which I think Xavi needs. I think Xavi needs that player who he trusts to at least try to find him when they're playing 1-2 touch ball up, kind of in transition and countering. So, yeah, no, I was happy with his performance. I think that a few more starts, hopefully, in this same system, and Frank doesn't kind of divert to something else, that he could really grow into the season again. Because a lot of these players, it's kind of been stop start, at least in the midfield, where like we're really hoping that this performance is going to kick on their season and they'll get more starts, and then we end up kind of back to square one. But
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think you're right about the kind of sometimes. I think last season, I think part of the reason Bergvall thrived last season, but also part of the reason at times he looked very immature and young, is because the team was so dysfunctional, and he kind of came in and said, "Fuck it, I'm going to do this myself." Demanded the ball off the back four constantly, and just went and did whatever he wanted. And I think what he did well tonight, or realized tonight, is that there was one other good player around him, and he actually popped off passes really nicely, and there was people for him to combine with. And I think at times he hasn't had that, especially centrally. There hasn't been players for him to play off. Obviously, when Maddison was back for a while, that was great, but there hasn't been those options there for him to work with. And so he has at times had to overplay, or probably thought to himself, there's no point in giving him the ball there because I can do more here, or whatever. So I think that is going to really help his game. You need to surround. It's such a simple thing to say, but I think putting good technical players near each other is just a cheat code. Like the best teams in the world, you look at PSG, you look at Barcelona. Sometimes the proximity of these players when the team is at their best is this close, and they're just rotating and they're popping it around players, and you just let them have a feel for the game. You look at Pedri and De Jong in Barcelona's midfield. There's times where they're literally stood like this close to each other, just popping the ball and just moving. Same with PSG with Vitinho, Ruiz, and Neves. Yeah, I think there's so much to be said about that, and we don't see it at Spurs because the technical level has been so poor for so long. We've prioritized physical attributes. We've prioritized Premier League proven players, and so yeah, I think that is hopefully much more to come of that, and hopefully we continue to bring in some more technical players. Let's see if we've got any other questions. You fellas plan on doing post-match reviews often? Yeah, we're definitely going to do more of these. 100%. Whenever I'm not at games, yeah, I think it's actually a much easier way of putting out content after the game rather than having to post it and edit it and whatever.
The other thing with me is most of you guys obviously know my accent. I live in the States, so I work till 4. So if the game's at 3, I'm missing the first half, or don't tell anyone. I'm watching it at work and kind of distracted. So I try, if we were doing a post match, I'll make sure you guys know that I'm not well informed about the first half, and hopefully it was uneventful, so we could just talk about an informed half.
Yeah, because quickly people are asking about Kudus. So if because I think there's something clearly wrong there. But
I think he's carrying a knock. He didn't look himself tonight. There was a lot of times where he just stood on the ball and he wasn't really sprinting at all. I hope it's not a muscle. I think that just the amount of kind of, I want to call it almost abuse that Everton gave him on the pitch he got clattered into at least like 4 or 5 times. There was the Idrissa Gana thing where he got an elbow to the throat. He got scissored by Gardner from behind. I think he got clattered into by O'Brien as well. I was telling Kish before we started that if you look back at some of the old videos that Spurs put out after the Everton game, Mickey's walking down the tunnel, kind of like, pumping his fists, and Kudus is behind him, and he's limping really, really slowly, and he just looks like kind of dejected, like that he's just. I think he's carrying something. We're kind of obviously speculating, but like I think that it is probably something to do with a bruise or something. But
for me, it's just the way that I know that Kudus plays. I've watched him every game this season. He is the most intense player who not only on the ball, off the ball as well. He's so good out of possession. He sprints for 90 minutes pretty much, and he didn't put in one sprint when he came on. So that
one of the reasons why I think he was so upset with Joe Ellington's tackle. Obviously it was a nasty, dirty tackle. It should have been a red or
100%.
2 yellows at least. But I think that was one of the reasons why he was so upset. Was he turned around and wanted to punch him in the face because he was like, "Dude, I'm barely sprinting."
I thought he was getting sent off there.
Yeah, I wouldn't have fucking minded it, to be honest. Like I think it was just a nasty situation where like he didn't really want to be on the pitch. I was scratching my head at that sub. It didn't really look like we were likely to score. We were already down 2. Just rest him for, what was it, Saturday or Sunday?
Chelsea Saturday, yeah.
Saturday, yeah. Just rest him for Saturday. Like I wasn't sure about that.
No, 100%. Yeah, just on these lives, I think we're gonna do them as much as possible. Also, we can bring on other guests as well. Like we can bring people in. So let us know who you want to see. Yeah. Let me see if we got anything else. Yeah, we've touched on when Kulu comes back. I think we'll see kind of a 2-10 system.
I think some people are saying that.
If there's anything,
I even tweeted that on Sunday that I thought that we might play Kulu or Madison deeper and still play 2-10s against.
Oh, what play 3-10? Yeah, I don't know
it. It would be like the antithesis of what Frank is doing for the first few games. But
I mean, mainly set pieces. He'll.
Yeah, I just think that we're desperate for DLP, a deep line playmaker without Romero, and you put Madison back there with runners, and he could find some people in the pockets, especially Xavi. And we probably wouldn't ever end up playing that lineup, but Frank is going to find a spot for Kulu, whether it's
100. He's gonna love Kulu.
Whether it's tucking Simmons in at left wing, kind of playing as like an inside wing fielder, and playing Kulu in the 10 with Kudus, or just kind of shuffling them every other game.
I'll tell you what he might do as well is where's Johnson? Because what we saw on, I can't even find the guy. I probably deleted him. But what we saw against Everton, where we had this kind of Kudus and imagine this is Johnson, they were constantly rotating. I think that and Kulusevski would work really well with Kulusevski and Kudus. So yeah, I'm not concerned about that at all. I tell you what I am concerned about. If this guy gets injured, we are so screwed. Like I don't think people understand. Without him today, we would have literally not left our half, I don't think. So
I'm so sick of just seeing any type of slander on his name. Like
this role, especially because I think I've actually become less worried about the midfield since obviously just Sunday. But since we moved to this 3-2 shape, I think we've just progressed the ball so much better, and it is in moments still, but it's such an upgrade from what we've seen. And I think so much of that is due to Porro. If we do lose him, it's genuinely curtains. So yeah, protect that guy. I think we should probably look to use Gray's injured now, isn't he? I was gonna say that Gray should get some minutes there.
It's so bleak, man.
But we're pretty screwed there. I mean, to be honest, this is something I don't hate. This is quite a wild take, but where's Van der Ven? It's down as Ven. If needs must at some point, that is not something I hate. If we're going to go with this shape, because again, you get the passing from Romero, and Danso has been pretty reliable. But yeah, these are all hopefully not going to matter. Why no 3-2 build up today? We certainly saw the 3-2 build up today. I don't think we were easy to press either. I think first 15 we struggled to get out, but I think after that we were okay in building up.
Yeah, Kinski helped that. I mean, his tending was not good, but
No,
his feet were pretty decent. I mean, his feet were what we expect from him. I think that he helped a lot, just relieving a lot of pressure. They didn't have any intention on pressing him.
no.
So it allowed him to kind of spray the ball, especially to Spence, which helped a lot.
Yeah, Gus, I'm gonna ask for one more question.
Okay.
We'll both discuss it, and then we'll wrap up. Yeah.
Sounds good, mate.
Yeah. Anyone got a last question we will answer before we're coming up to an hour? Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Please do let us know if you enjoyed this after as well, whether that's on social media. To be honest, it'd be great if you guys could let us know on social media if you enjoyed it, so I can put that out as well to show that people have missed out who haven't been here.
Dream signing in January?
Yeah, dream signing in Jan. To be honest, as a January signing, so obviously there's dream signings, but I'm going to be a bit realistic. I am going to say a left back. I think with this system, it's so vital we have a left back that can basically be a winger in possession. Not necessarily a winger, but really hold the width, be able to carry it and get into the final third and put crosses in. Basically just be left-footed and okay going forward. So you got any ideas on that, left back wise?
Yeah, no, my dream signing is any left back, any defender with a left foot.
Who can you recommend?
Um,
Robinson? As a backup, I don't mind it.
Yeah, isn't Robinson like hurt?
I think he's injured,
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I wouldn't mind him. I just think that Fulham are gonna ask absorbent money, even though he hasn't really played. I would go with Jedi. I think he's just what
Is that
we
what they
need.
call
He's a
him,
left.
Jedi?
Yeah, his nickname is Jedi.
Why do they call him that?
I don't know. Jedi Robinson. I think his middle name might be Jedi.
You know
I'm
what?
not sure.
Someone's just suggested a great shout.
That's what I said on Twitter yesterday. Why don't I own this? Why don't I own Nathaniel Brown? I've wanted him for 2 seasons. I think he's unbelievable. He's kind of like almost want to say he's better tucked in, but like he's good as an overlapping left back. He reminds me of like a smaller. I saw someone on Twitter, so I'm stealing this from someone, but he reminds me of a smaller Calafiori.
I was gonna say Livramento.
Oh, not a bad shout.
Yeah.
Not a bad shout.
He's German, right?
He's German English, yeah.
Okay.
But he plays for Germany.
He's called Jedi because he really likes Star Wars.
Is that the lore?
That's the worst nickname ever. Cool. Thanks guys for locking in. Please do tweet us if you've enjoyed it. And what else do I have to request? Like it, share it because it's gonna go out. So if one of your friends or family hasn't watched it and you thought it was interesting, please do share it. Obviously subscribe if you're not subscribed. Follow Gus on Twitter. Yida Gus Dos. He's had to change his name since he got banned.
He got banned for copyright one too many times.
And obviously, I'm sure you're probably following me on Twitter, but if you're not, obviously it's there. And yeah, I wouldn't get too down about tonight. I think I was much more concerned this time last week. Was this it was Monaco, right? Last week. I was much more concerned after the Monaco game than I am tonight. I think there's actually been some small little tweaks that Frank's made that I think will make a massive difference. Chelsea game on Saturday.
Huge.
It's going to be rocking because it's a 5:30 kickoff at home, rivals.
I can't wait. I'm usually like nervous obviously usually nervous for Chelsea at home, but I'm fucking excited. Hopefully we get some players back, man.
Yeah, it's just about the injuries at this point. But yeah, let us know, guys. Tweet us, and thanks for watching. Peace.
Thanks, guys.